Today, that progressive sense of balance, of bringing the environmental and the human factor into a creative relationship, this sense of balance pervades the Sempervirens philosophy and practice. Far from being embarrassed by the proximity of its preservationist effort to some of the most beautiful cities, towns, and suburbs of the Bay Area, members of the Sempervirens Fund find themselves delighted by their proximity to such beautiful urban and suburban places, fostered, after all, by the Garden City movement contemporaneous to the founding of the Sempervirens movement. But they seem especially taken with the proximity of its continuing efforts in Silicon Valley, where nature in the form of electricity and technology in the form of the silicon microchip have revolutionized nothing less than human society itself, opening, among other gifts, the possibilities of nature-friendly, non-intrusive, non-extractive communications techniques, creating nothing less than a world community of real-time communication and long-term information storage. In other words, in retrospect, it seems almost prophetic that the Varian family, Russell Varian, who began efforts to purchase the land for Castle Rock in the 1950s, Dorothy Varian, as well, played such an important role in the development of the Sempervirens Fund into a leading land trust. At the same time that the digital revolution was launched by the Varian brothers in the pre-war era and it was reaching an accelerated intensity. Among other things, in the added support of the Moore Foundation and the Packard Foundation for the Sempervirens Fund. We must remember, after all, that the same Stanford University that helped bring the Sempervirens Fund and the California State Park system into existence when David Starr Jordan convened the first gathering of Semperviren activists for a meeting on the Stanford campus, also helped Lee DeForest invent the vacuum tube in 1912, also helped Philo T. Farnsworth invent television in 1927, also helped Russell and Sigurd Varian perfect the first klystron vacuum tube designed to amplify microwave signals into an ultra-high frequency current. And if all this were not enough, also helped recent graduates David Packard and William Hewlett to perfect an audio oscillator for use initially to enhance the music for Walt Disney's Fantasia, released in 1940. Interactions of nature and technology remain at the core of the California DNA code, from the gold rush to irrigation to dams and aqueducts serving urban populations, to pioneering astronomy in the late 19th century, pioneering aviation in the first half of the 20th, jet propulsion and aerospace, biotechnology, and the medical sciences of the future. Thus, the current activities of the Sempervirens Fund constitute a protection of nature on its own terms. The redwood forest, the Sempervirens Fund constantly emphasizes as a way of taking care of itself when not interfered with. But the Sempervirens Fund movement has always remained committed as well to the proper enjoyment of the redwood forest and the way that that forest land, properly preserved, properly managed as park, enhances adjacent human settlement by creating boundaries that protect while at the same time usher contemporary Californians into an experience of mountain and redwood grove set between seashore and settlement in the belief that human beings need redwoods for inspiration and redwoods need human beings for protection into the next 1,000 years of their bimillennial or more existence. This is why across the years the Sempervirens movement has dedicated itself to the park concept, the Big Basin Redwood State Park, Castle Rock State Park, Butano State Park, the recently achieved San Vicente Redwoods, and the Skyline to the Sea Trail that allows contemporary Californians the restorative pleasure of walking this trail as it winds through redwood groves, ascends and descends mountain formations, then offers that transformative experience. The ancient Greeks of Xenophon's Anabasis experienced this, as did Balboa, having crossed the Isthmus of Panama, or Lewis and Clark and their party, having crossed the North American continent, this experience of arriving from a mountain height into sight of the sea.